Never a frown, always a smile. When he says to me, how's my child? I said that I've been studying hard all day in school, trying very hard to understand the golden rule. I think I'll color this man father. Color him father. I think I'll color him love. Color him love. Said I'm gonna color him father. Color him father. I think I'll color the man love. Yes, I will. Color him father. He says education is the thing if you want to compete, because without his son, life ain't very sweet. I love this man and I don't know why, except I'll need his strength until the day that I die. My mother loves him and I can tell by the way she looks at him when he holds my little sister Nell. I heard her say...
Welcome to a special Father's Day episode of The Art of Balancing It All. I am Pam Thompson-Smith, better known as The Firm.
And I am TT Lyle Ellis, aka the Ambassador of Buzz.
Well, TT, we're back. Less than just a week. Yeah,
yes,
back.
yes.
We're come to celebrate what? Our Black fathers.
Yes, we are celebrating the men folk, and not just any men folk. Our wonderful chocolate, mocha, butter pecan, caramel.
All cold, but you know, I love chocolate.
Yes, we do. So we are just a month away from celebrating the moms, right? We talked a little bit about how our moms have been the guiding post for us. They set the standard for really being a boss, right? But one of the other things that we have in common is that we were both blessed to have our fathers in home, which we know may not be the case for many, but I believe that there is a shift that has started in the Black community that I am extremely proud of. I've always said, though, that my dad really was the source of my self-esteem. And it really started with him jokingly saying, I never saw a baby as cute until I saw you. So that always was my boost, right? But he also told me that I could do anything that I put my mind to. So he really was the source of my self-esteem in so many ways. And he also instilled in me to just never stop learning, always keep reading and exploring new things in life. So Pam, talk to me about how your dad has impacted you in your life.
Man, my dad is my superhero, but he's like a quiet storm. So, you know, like you won't see any videos of my dad because he's not going to talk. So I did not get this talking from my dad. But how, you know, what was the largest impact? It would probably be, I got my work ethic from my dad because he works all the time, nonstop, all day and all night. So that would be, you know, probably one of the biggest things. So, you know, that's something that I remember, you know, from a little girl all the way to now. You know, if I'm up at 2 a.m., I could call my dad and talk to him because he's probably up at 2 a.m., you know, working. So that's one of the things that, you know, I get from him. So that's probably one of the biggest impacts is work ethic, respect. He's well respected in the community. Everybody knows him. You think everybody knows Pam. Everybody knows my mom, but everybody knows my dad as well. He's committed to, like, if he commits to do something, you know, he's going to do it. And he doesn't know how to say no. So that's another thing, you know, you get on, you know, so it comes from somewhere.
Yes, it does.
It's hereditary. So that's, you know, one of the things, and that's just being, you know, a man or a woman of your word. So that's, you know, one of the things that I know that I get from him. But he's a quiet storm. So that's what we like to call him. He's got 2 girls and a wife. So, you know, we just ruled the house. The women ruled the world. Women ruled his house. So we don't let him get a word in edgewise. So that's kind of how it's been. So he's like the quiet storm, though, because when it's time, you know, to say something, he gets it done in there. So it's just been fun. And we have this running joke around the house when he really wants to get to say it and stop us, he'll go, And then we all look like, okay, let's be quiet.
It's time to be quiet.
Say something. So yes, I love my dad. And today is his birthday. So by the time this airs, it'll be close to the Father's Day.
Happy birthday, Dad.
Birthday. So happy birthday, Daddy. And
yes.
it's so hard that I'm going to get in trouble today because I haven't called him yet. But as soon as we get off, I'm going to call him and say, happy birthday, Daddy. I love you.
Yes.
And so we could go on and on and on about our dads and just about the value of our fathers. But this is a show about men. So we figured we would let the men speak about the importance of Black fatherhood to them. So we reached out to some great men, some friends of ours. So we're going to get them to talk, some through video. And then we have some great men here on today. So we're going to let you get started by playing some awesome videos.
Let's roll it.
Being a Black father is an essential part of me being a man. I take the development of my sons and my daughter very seriously because what I do today will affect them tomorrow. For my sons, I'm a reflection of who they are to be. For my daughter, I'm a reflection of who she's to marry. And I take my responsibility in their lives very, very seriously. You see, I have to teach them how to navigate society safely because for us, it's not the same as non-Black families. So what do I feel about being a Black father? I feel like being a Black father is about being the best me that I can be so they can be free and successful in society.
Hi there, my name is Peter and I am 45 years old and I am the proud father of a beautiful 5-year-old daughter by the name of Maya Miko. We call her Miko for short. And the question I guess I'm answering is, what does fatherhood or Black fatherhood mean to me? Means a number of things. One, the big thing it means to me is being present, being consistently present in your child's life, because ultimately that will help them to become well-adjusted adults. The second thing is being inspiring to your child. I'm 45 years old and I chose to go back to change careers and to go back to graduate school, and I'm working towards an eventual doctorate in clinical psychology. And a big part of doing this was, yes, about a career change, but the other part was to inspire my child, to give her this example that she can achieve anything she wants to, regardless of her station in life. So that's what fatherhood or Black fatherhood means to me.
What does parenthood mean to me? I think the first thing that comes to mind to me is legacy. I think every man wants a son that he can pass that legacy down to. And I was blessed to have a son, someone that I can communicate with and share my experiences. And I think that's important because it also helps to mitigate the risks that they may come upon when they're out in public. So just to have that bond with him and that open line of communication, to share an athletic background with him and, just be able to prepare him for the future. We started a clothing line together that I named after him, Reign Forever. And I also felt that's a part of the legacy, and to show him how important it is to have your own and to have multiple streams of income. So part of the biggest joy of being a father, let alone a Black father, is just to, pass down that legacy and prepare them for greatness in the future.
Wow, that is so powerful. Black fathers matter, I tell you.
Yes,
so
they do.
We have so many more videos to come, but thank you personally to my friends, Stefan Williams and Steve Holmes, for just, coming on and doing those great videos for us. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Yes. And to my dear friend, Peter Gordon, it is much appreciated. So
it has been very important, today to really just take time out, to highlight our fathers. We wanted to start, the full spectrum. So from single dads to those who are co-parenting to those who are both a husband and a father. So you're just going to see the spectrum of gamut of fathers on today.
Yes. And that leads us to our first guest, whose fatherhood journey has taken him from teen dad to single father of 2 boys, all while navigating building a successful office supply service business and at the same time taking care of his 2 elderly grandparents. His fatherhood journey would later include him having a 3rd son, where he co-parented for many years, to now having that 3rd son, now a teenager, join him in Arlington, Virginia, making him once again a full-time dad. He has always been passionate about health and wellness and now works in that passion as a well-known personal trainer that specializes in sports training and training those recovering from injury. He also loves participating in triathlons and other endurance events that push both his mental and physical limits. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Rodney Paylor, who also just happens to be my beautiful son, Xavier's dad. So welcome to the show, Rodney.
Well, like I said, thanks for having me.
We're excited to have you, Rodney. I like that part when she said my beautiful son, Xavier's dad.
Well, I don't know. He just ran back in the room. He came out and heard your voice and ran back in the room.
He missed his mommy. That's so cute. I love it. I love it. So I'm excited to have you. Before I even go to the question that I'm supposed to ask you, I have another question I'm going to surprise you with. Well, not really a question, but I just want to make a comment and say that I think this is beautiful. You know, this is a special Father's Day show, but I just want to say it's beautiful to have both of you on. You're both smiling and, you know, talking to each other, and just to have you on co-parenting and loving on each other, and you have a great relationship, and that's a blessing. And I just want to applaud you guys. You know, before I even get started, I'm going to applaud you guys because I just think that's great, and it's very, very important in a child's life. So I'm excited. I always tell TT that I love that. So I applaud that. And it takes two people, you know, for that to happen. So
absolutely.
Great job, Rodney. But first, we always like to start, you know, with the wellness check. So it's been a lot going on. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot going on in the world, a lot going on where you are. So we just want to check on you. How are you doing? We're in two pandemics here, from COVID-19 to, you know, a racial pandemic. You know, how are you doing personally? And you're raising sons. So tell us how you're doing.
Oh, well, I'm doing great. So, I'm lucky that nobody I know has been affected by the COVID-19, and the gym I work at, everybody's practicing social distancing. Everything's great. As far as the racial thing, that's a little rough around here, being in DC with the protesting and all that. But
right,
we're managing.
Okay, so the gyms in your area are open.
Yes, they just opened Monday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Well, before we dive in, Rodney, I think it would be great for you to let our audience know some background about you becoming a teen dad and how that led to you becoming a single dad of two sons.
Well, it all started, a lot of the reason I became a teen dad, because like most young black men in DC, I was hard-headed. I was running the streets and I didn't listen to nobody. I thought I knew it all. And I was running around, messing with women and stuff like that. My grandparents, they warned me, told me to stay away, focus on the books and stuff like that. But I got involved with a young lady who was a little older than me at the time, and she managed to get pregnant. Yeah. When I was
she managed to get pregnant.
Yeah, she managed to get pregnant.
That is a man answer.
She managed to get pregnant. That's exactly what she told me. Hey, I'm repeating for her, because when she got pregnant, she used to tell me, "Oh, don't worry, I can't get pregnant." And I can't get pregnant. Then she popped up one day and told me she was pregnant. I said, "Well, how that happened?" And she looked at me and said, "Oh, you don't know?" So, the rough thing was going to tell my grandmother.
I can imagine.
My life.
So we know that they came back to back. They were about a year apart. But how did that lead to single fatherhood?
10 months to be exactly. My two sons, what they call them, Irish twins. They are exactly 10 months apart. I don't know. Right after the 6-week checkup. Yeah, wasn't my fault.
Wow.
She managed to do it again.
You had nothing to do with it. No responsibility, no learning after the first time.
No, I'm just joking. I had all the responsibility and stuff like that. So I turned out to be 17 with 2 kids, living in DC. Yes. Wow. And I thought my life was over with, because that's what everybody kept telling me. But my grandparents just told me, said, "No, your life's not over with. It's just gonna be difficult, and you made the mistakes, and we're here to help you." And that's how it started. Yeah.
And so eventually you ended up raising the two boys by yourself. And that really was from what age? When did you start that?
Yeah, well, I moved out at 18. Me and her, we got a place together. Like I said, she was around 4 or 5 years older than me. We got in a place together. And we lived together for about 2 or 3 years. And things just went downhill after that. She was telling me that she was too old to be a mother. And I was saying, wait a minute, you're older than me. Out in the streets and so we finally broke up. And I hadn't planned on being a single parent because she actually took the kids with her and moved in with her sister. And about after 2 or 3 months, she called me and said, the kids gonna have to stay with you for a while because my sister's kicking me out. And I said, move back to my grandfather's house to save some money. I said, we have plenty of room. They can come stay with me for the summer because school was ending and the kids stay with me for the summer. She was coming over like once every 2 weeks to visit them. And then when school started, she didn't show up. And I kept getting in touch with her. You know, this was before cell phones and all that stuff. And I kept trying to get in touch, saying, don't they have to go to school? Then when I finally got in touch with her, she said she couldn't find a place to stay. And, you know, she was running the streets and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, my God. And I put him in school in D.C., thinking, well, maybe in school for a little while. She'll eventually come to get him. You know, 1 month led to a year. 1 year led to a decade. They still things with me till they moved out on their own.
Yes,
So
yes.
Yeah, so I never intended to be a single teenage father. Oh, well, around 23. That's when they were with me. 22.
Wow. So that was a long time. So what were some of your guiding principles really as you were raising these two boys who could not be any different from each other? They are like the yin and the yang, especially in one of the toughest neighborhoods in DC. So really, what were your guiding principles and values?
Well, I get all my principles from my grandfather. Sad to say, I grew up without my father. My father was locked up majority of my life. So everything I really learned from being a man was from my grandfather and my uncle on my mother's side. So, yeah. And my grandfather was a hard worker. He believed in the family values. I mean, even though we lived in DC, it wasn't he provided us with everything we needed and some of the things we wanted. And that's the way he was. And my uncle used to come over. He taught me how to roller skate. He used to let me hang with him. I remember, 10, 12 years old, he taking me to the skating ring. I mean, I have more memories of him than I have of my own father. So they were the ones that basically raised me, and my aunts and my grandmother. And I just always wanted, I told myself, even when I had kids, I said, I want to always be in my kids' life because I know what it's like to not have a father. Even though I had male role models, my grandfather was great. He was at a certain age that he couldn't do things with me. And all other kids, their fathers was around. And even though I had my grandfather around, I always wanted my father around. I mean, the only memories I have of him is going and visiting him in jail when I was a little kid in elementary school. The only pictures that I have of him is being with him while he's in his prison uniform.
Wow.
Wow.
So I owe a lot to my grandfather. I mean, he stepped up to the plate and he raised me and my younger brother. And I owe him everything.
Wow.
What a great story. That's very, very powerful. And you talk about, the values that he instilled in you and the principles. And, so it sounds like, in raising your boys, you were very disciplined. So within that discipline and being in DC, but you're still a young man, so how did you manage that and have a love life?
Well, back then when the kids first came with me, I actually didn't have a love life. One of my cousins joked, said I didn't have a love life, I had a sex life.
And you know what? That's powerful because it's a difference.
There's a difference.
There is a difference. I never had time to really date or be with anybody and stuff like that. So yeah, I didn't have a love life to really start dating somebody till my kids got in junior high school. Because when they was in elementary school, I went to work. I had to pick them right up after daycare, and when they was in school, I had to be home. Even though my grandparents helped a lot, well, my grandfather really, because my grandmother had already passed, and it was just me, my grandfather, my kids, and my brother. and my younger brother would babysit for me a lot while I was working. I had to take 2 jobs sometimes just take care of them, but it was all worth it. But I agree with my cousin. It was more of a sex life, not a love life, till they was about 12 or 13 years of age. That's when I could go out and do that. Because they was very, I remember Rodney, when I did bring a girl home one time to meet my kids, I mean, he treated her so awful. He had to be like 8 or 9 years old. He told her that this is my daddy. Get away from him. Because it was just me and my kids.
They were that way.
and it was a house full of men. It was my grandfather, my brother, and me and my 2 kids. So yeah, it was rough. So yeah. So I snuck out when I could and did what I could. Hope I don't offend none of your audience.
We got a preacher in the green room. We got a pastor, but I have a feeling he back there saying that'll preach.
Absolutely. We keep it real on here. So as you said, you didn't date until the kids were teenagers, right?
Yeah. Actually, when I started dating you, you was second before
I was
you
the second
woman. Yes. I was getting out when I laugh and joke about it. Maybe some women had pity on me because they knew I was a single father. But yeah, I really didn't think that much. Yeah.
Well, by the time we met, the boys were teenagers. I think they were probably closer to high school at that time. And I remember being so nervous about meeting them because you were very upfront. You were like, look, they can make or break it. If they don't feel it, then, in so many words, forget what we got. It's not going to work. So I remember that so much. But we ended up meeting and all of us ended up loving each other. They're still my babies to this day. But we ended up becoming a blended family where we welcomed our son into the world. But, life happened and our relationship ended. But I remember we both were very committed. We had conversations about how we were going to do this, and we were committed to doing what was best for Xavier, right? And that included even weekend activities, family activities, and even vacationing together. I remember people teasing us and calling us Bruce and Demi. But I know why it was important to me, but could you tell us why that was so important to you? Because I remember there was 2 things that were very important to you. One was that you had your constant visitation with Xavier, and the other was that you wanted to always provide financially for Xavier to be in private school, which was one of those things you were adamant about. He's going to private school. So could you give us some background on why those 2 things were so important to you?
Yeah, well, like I said, it's very important for me to be in my kids' life. Like I said, my first 2 boys and Xavier. And I felt that the reason that me and you split up, he had nothing to do with that. So why should he be punished for that? It was very important for me to look after him, be there for him. Yeah, and I wanted him to stay in private school. I wanted him to educate, and I wanted him to have a better chance than I ever had, in life and stuff like that. Yeah. And I mean, my hat's off to you. I knew a lot of friends. I know you hate this word, baby mama.
Oh God, I knew you were gonna say it.
A lot of friends.
I can't smack you in your head. I'm not near you.
That's one thing I loved about you. There was never no drama and stuff like that. Me and you had a disagreement. I mean, we settled it without Xavier being around. That's the mistake I made with my first 2 kids. The arguing in front of them and stuff like that. And I know that affected them a lot. But we kept it between us. You never held a grudge against me. I was still able to see Xavier, and that's a mistake I see a lot. I hate to see that in co-parents when they take it out on the kid because they don't like it, they can't get along. Exactly. But like I said, we agreed before it got too bad, before we started to hate each other, to go out separate ways, so it'd be best for Xavier. And I love that we worked together because the most important thing was taking care of Xavier. And we put our little stuff to the side. We focused on him.
Absolutely.
So I was kind of lucky. The first mother wasn't around, and you was very understanding. So I never had to deal with baby mama drama.
Yes, or baby mama, I would say, but
That's a blessing.
It was very important to me to be in his life because, like I said, I know what it was like to not have a father around, and I never wanted my kids to live that or have to deal with something like that. You know, so
I appreciate that.
forces, and I enjoyed being around my kids. You know, I used to hear guys talk about, you know, they have to get their kids or they have to babysit this weekend. And I remember telling one of my friends, I said, well, it's not babysitting. I said, when it's yours, it's called parenting. And I wanted to always be around my kids all the time. I enjoyed talking to them. I enjoyed watching them laugh. And it made me stronger. You know.
It does give you strength. Parenting does give you strength for sure. The last thing is that I wanted to talk about is we ended up moving to North Carolina, Xavier and the family. And I know that was really tough on you. It was tough on our son. It was tough on the entire family. That whole arrangement meant that you were riding to DC every 2 weeks, getting Xavier and coming right back, which meant 8 hours on the road and then meeting me on Sundays. I know that had to have been exhausting. And from what you're saying, it sounds like it was so important to you that you persevered through it. But that was a tough transition for us. That probably was the first time things got rocky for us. So tell me, how did you push through during that very difficult time?
Oh, it was rough for me. It took me a while to adjust and stuff like that. You know, I had a lot of sleepless nights when y'all first moved.
Yeah.
I was mad in the beginning, but I understand why you moved and stuff like that. And yeah, I was a little peed off at you. and Xavier was upset too, so we both were upset. And I promised him, I said, you know, I will still be around. I made him that promise. You know, he was crying before he had to leave, and I made him a promise. I said, I will always be around. You don't have to worry about that. I said, I will come and get you. I said, I don't care how far away it is. We will see each other. And the drive didn't bother me that much. I mean, a lot of caffeine driving but I mean, I did it for 4 years straight. And actually the drive wasn't as bad as you know, once I got used to it, it was very relaxing. You know, I used to think about a lot of things driving down there, stuff like that. But, yeah.
Well, I thank you so much for pushing through. And we came through. We had a little rough patch there, but I remember we even frustrated the lawyer because the lawyer, when we got on the phone, we ended the conversation in like 10 or 15 minutes, and she was like, "But you shouldn't give her that." And he was like, "I'll just give her that," and it was funny. It was a very short time.
You know, lawyers go for the throat, and I got the lawyer. I just said I wanted to set up some visitation rights. So, you know, I just wanted stuff like that because I don't know what might happen. And they was just going after the throat to try to make you seem as bad as possible. And I kept telling them, I said, no, she's not a bad mother. And they were saying, well, we can keep your son up here. We can take him away from her. I said, no, that's not what I'm asking for. You know, I guess they kept going. I had to stop them and stuff like that. To file all these different kind of papers, and they wanted to say, and they kept telling us, no, she's not a bad mother. I said she had to take a job in North Carolina. I just want to make sure I'm able to see my son. That's all I want to. So I had to sit down with them and practically almost cuss them out. You know,
Oh Lord!
As this unfit mother, and I kept saying to them, no. I said, I know the unfit mother look like it. So it was rough the first couple of months, but like I said, we made it through.
Absolutely.
We made it through, and then you know, Xavier's he's up here now, and everything always turned out. You know, just believe so.
Yeah.
This is good. This is such a great story. It's very inspiring. I absolutely love it. I see both sides, you know, being divorced and single mom. And I applaud you guys. And I say, y'all need to write a book because it ain't always this pretty, you know. So I just applaud you guys. Rodney, you have had a remarkable, you know, as you just described, single fatherhood, you know, co-parenting, and now once again being a full-time dad and a proud LGBTQ son. So I just want you to kind of, give a little more advice, give some encouragement to fathers in these different stages who may be struggling right now. So what words of encouragement would you give, that are going through what you've been going through?
I would just tell them to hang in there, hang in there, love your kids, give them all the comfort they need, work with the parent. Yeah. And like I said, one thing I do hate is when parent, whether it's the male or the female, when they take it out on the son, when they try to get back at the other half, and it hurts the kid. That's one thing I can't stand. I've seen it too many times. Whether, like I said, whether it's male or female, I've seen women keep their kids away from the father just to get back at them, and I see fathers skimp on finances just to get back at the mother. And that's one thing I can't stand. So people out there, if you co-parenting, put all that pettiness to the side. Absolutely. Love your children, work hard, raise them, and make sure that they be better than we are. That's all. And no matter how tough it get, keep hanging in there, keep striving forward, and everything will work out.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That is good. Awesome. Thank you so much, Rodney. And you're listening to a special Father's Day episode of The Art of Balancing It All, and we are celebrating Black fatherhood. And before we get to our next guest, we're going to share some more great videos.
All right.
The question is, why is being a present Black father important to me? This is a great question because it goes to the very heart of my fathering, because like a lot of my brothers, I never knew my father. That fact had a very profound effect on me because I felt at that time that I was living my life without a compass to point me in the right direction. I had a very strong mother. She was like my mother and my father combined. But then there comes a time in every kid's life, especially boys, when you need to have manhood questions answered. So don't get me wrong, I had male role models, but I felt that nothing could replace the relationship of the person responsible for me being in this world. So in my early years, I struggled with the question like a lot of kids without fathers did, who am I? I struggled with all kinds of rejection issues, low self-esteem, not being good enough, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I handled all this mostly by tucking all those things into a nice little compartment in the back of my mind. When I fast forward to today, my wife and I have 3 young adult children, and I think that the most important gift I could give them is being present, not perfect, but always being present. I wanted to model the behavior that you can agree to disagree without running out on a relationship like my father did. And I wanted them to know that your home is your sanctuary, a place of peace and calm, a refuge and a safe place. This is just a very tiny snapshot of why being a present Black father is important to me and for my kids. So thanks, T, for asking the question.
Being a present Black father is very, very important to me because I believe I'm responsible for instilling the seed of self-awareness in my kids. So many of us wander aimlessly around the earth, not even having a clue as to why we even exist, totally overlooking the natural strengths that lie within, whether we were born with them or whether we learned them. But when I choose to ask myself hard questions and even wait for those answers, I have no choice but to teach my kids to be self-aware. Why? Because that's the life that I live.
What's up, guys? It's Frank Henderson. Just wanted to talk to you about why I believe it's important for fathers to be in their children's lives. It is through our fathers that we begin to find out who we are and our identity. We see it in the book of Matthew where God speaks from heaven and tells Jesus, he tells the world, this is my beloved son in whom I am well pleased. Just those words prepared Christ for everything he was going to do. In the same way, I hold to it because I grew up without a father. So I know how important it is to have that infusion of who you are and your identity laid into your life. I searched for years. So what I do with my savage my six children, is I always try to speak into who they are, affirm who they are, encourage who they are. I think that is very, very powerful. And that is the responsibility of being a father. Hey, happy Father's Day, everybody. It's 2020. God bless. It's a great year. Let's go.
Again, thank you so much for all that sent in the videos, including our dope friends, Frank Henderson, Ken Branson, and Dave DeJesus.
Yes, we are not done yet. I am super excited to introduce our next dope guest, none other than Reverend Mark T. Gibson, the senior pastor of Redeeming Love Missionary Baptist Church, right down the street from me here in Raleigh, North Carolina. Pastor Mark, as he is affectionately called, is distinguished himself. He is a preacher, he's a teacher, he has a sincere desire to teach God's word to the lost, to the hungry. He is born and educated, TT, you will love this, in Washington, D.C. Yes. He holds a bachelor's degree in political science from Johnson C. Smith University in Charlotte, North Carolina. He also has a master's degree in student personnel services from Indiana University of Pennsylvania, a master's degree of divinity from Shaw University School of Divinity. He's currently working on his doctorate of ministry. That's right, from Campbell. And as we talked about earlier, he is no stranger to radio. He has spent over 20 years as a radio personality in Greensboro, North Carolina, 90.1 FM and 97.3. He's an educator with over 32 years in student affairs. He is very passionate about serving his community and involved in several community organizations in the greater Raleigh area. He is married to the lovely Lady Margot Rice Gibson, who I adore, and is the proud father of 4 sons and 1 daughter. He is a grandfather of 2 grandchildren. Let's welcome my friend, the old so dope Pastor Mark Gibson. Pastor Mark, welcome. Finally, we have you on the art of balancing it all. We have arrived now. You know, this started in January, but it took us to June because we now have Bishop, as I call it, Bishop Gibson. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. You are way too kind, Pam. You are way too kind. When you were doing the introduction, I'm trying to figure out who is she talking about.
My friend, the man, the bishop himself, Pastor Mark Gibson. We're excited to have you. So before we dive in, just like we did with Rodney, you know, it is trying times. We are all going through a lot. And you are a pastor, you're an influencer, you're a husband, you are a father. So you have a lot on your shoulders. And you have to take care of a lot of people during these times. We got 2 pandemics going on, right? COVID-19, we've got the racism pandemic. You got to worry about a lot of people, and a lot of people are reaching out to you. But I want to ask you, Mark Gibson, without the titles, how are you doing? Doing, my brother?
Well, first of all, PT and Pam, thank you both for letting me be part of this program. And I want to say to Rodney, I sit here in awe, because that's a real man. The relationship you and Rodney have, that's unique. Particularly, it doesn't make a difference what culture, because when folks break up, things are broken, families are broken, hearts are broken, minds are broken. So I want to commend Rodney. I want to commend UTT for just an awesome relationship. And that's how things are working. To your question, Pam, I am, you know what, I'm being prayerful about this, but as a man, I am incensed at the leadership of this country, how they are just sort of downplaying the fact that we're dealing with a serious pandemic. Now, I'm not talking just about COVID-19. I'm talking about what has been systemic in this country since its founding. It was stolen from our Native American brothers and sisters. And yet there is this this arrogance that seems to be permeating all across this country. And, while folks are trying to tell us, all lives matter. Well, if my house is on fire in the neighborhood, you don't need to hose down all the houses in the neighborhood. It's my house that's burning.
Absolutely.
And so I'm a little enraged at how this is being treated and how this is sort of being glossed over. But what is more concerning to me with this racism is I want our young people, because a lot of these individuals who are protesting out on the front lines are millennials. Mm-hmm. And I'm excited to see this. My concern is millennials like to see things happen instantaneously. Mm-hmm. From the civil rights movement, this took time. The Montgomery boycott was 382 days, and it didn't end because folk got tired. It ended because the Supreme Court said enough is enough. Right. And so I want our young brothers and sisters, keep protesting, keep raising your voices, and understand this is not a Jack and the Beanstalk kind of movement. This is a crock pot, not a microwave movement. This is a crock pot. It's going to take some time for it to come to fruition. When it comes, it's going to be tender, it's going to fall off the bone, and it's going to be just what we ordered.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's I could not agree more. And I like that you're saying get the mindset for longevity, because we're going to be in this for a while. Because we have to change mindsets, right? When you have to change mindsets, it takes some time.
That's right.
So fast forward to Black fatherhood, right? So you're dealing with all these various things, these emotions that you have at this very moment. Tell us how you feel and what Black fatherhood means for you, especially now.
Well, let me just give a little background. Marco and I got married in 2009. Prior to that, I was married to my son's mom for 15 years. Relationship that went south. I tell you, my boys are my life. So when we knew that we weren't going to make it, I wanted to assure my sons, I don't care where I am, I'm going to be your father. As a matter of fact, there's nothing that can change me not being your father. Death can't change the fact that I'm going to be your father. I'm the father.
That's right.
And because of my rearing, I knew that I wanted to be there for my boys, because my dad wasn't there for us, but didn't mean that we still couldn't survive. And so, I filed for custody for my sons and won, and won custody of them. And one of the things that in my personal life with Black fatherhood was, as I told the judge, he asked me, well, why should I give you custody? And I said, well, number one, it's not that the mother can't do a great job at parenting or raising the sons. I said, but it takes a man to raise a man to be a man. Plain and simple. I don't take anything away from our ladies. But my mom, even though she was a single mom, there were things she could not teach me as a female. And so I wanted to be in my son's life, sure that they knew I loved them. I wanted to know that I was going to protect them. I was going to teach them lessons, those kinds of things. But ultimately, we kept going back and forth to court, and she finally ended up with custody and I joint visitation. And as Rodney pointed out, whether or not I had custody, I was going to still see my sons. It didn't make a difference. I was going to make sure they were provided for. And so I was not going to shirk my financial responsibilities to my sons. But at the same time, I wanted them to know, despite their mother and I not being together, had nothing to do with them. My raising and my being a part of their life was something I wanted to do. This was something that in my heart to do, because it didn't happen for me. So I think for Black fatherhood, We've got to change that narrative that even though the mom and dad don't get along together, those kids are still your responsibilities. You
Yeah.
know, I can't change that. I've got 4 sons, 3 by my ex-wife and 1 from a previous relationship. Much like Rodney was, I was younger than the mom, and 33 now, living in Atlanta, and I often stay in contact with him. We talk every other week to make sure that he knows that I'm in his life. I didn't know he existed, as a matter of fact, until he was 9.
Wow.
And it was then that I found out that, listen, I got to step up to the plate. You know, I always wanted my dad to take care of me, and so I would be hypocritical if I didn't do this.
Absolutely.
That's good. That's a good caveat to my next question, because I hear you talk a lot, or see you talk on Facebook about going to DC all the time to see your father. And so I know it's been, challenging with the condition of COVID-19 and not being able to go there. But talk about that relationship, because, you say your mom was a single mom. And so just talk about your relationship with your dad and how that shaped the father that you are now. Talk a little bit more about that.
Okay, well, thanks, babe. My mom and dad divorced when I was in the 3rd grade. So 1973, they divorced. And my dad didn't move out of state. He didn't move to a different country. He was like 4 blocks away from where we lived.
Wow.
And I would often go around and want to spend time with him, but he was so busy working. He was a contractor. He was always gone. He said, I'm coming to pick you up. We'd sit. I'll never forget this one time. He told us he was going to take us for Toys R Us there in Capitol Plaza in Maryland, right off of BW Parkway. And it closed at 9 o'clock. Yeah, it closed at 9 o'clock, and we waited, and it was 8:55, and we were still at the window waiting. And it wasn't necessarily about going to the store; it was being with my dad, and he never showed up. And it just crushed my twin brother and I. We were just crushed because we just knew he was coming. And it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't about going to pick up toys or G.I. Joes, all that stuff. We just wanted to be with our dad, and he never showed up. And so with that, excuse me, I said to myself, when I have sons, in spite of what my relationship would be with my wife, I'm going to make sure I invest in their lives. I want to make sure I'm there when they want me to be there. I want to be at games. I want to be at programs. I want to be at their assemblies. I want to be at all of those things. It sort of shaped my life. But it was anger at first because he wasn't there. Then I realized, Mark, you can't be angry at somebody else's personality and let it dictate who you are. So, excuse me. So I loved up on Dad even more. Now he's 91 years old. He's in an adult care facility in Temple Hills, Maryland. And just as a matter of fact, May 28th, he celebrated his 91st birthday. And a week later, he was admitted to the hospital and was diagnosed with COVID-19.
Wow.
It was devastating for me. It was absolutely devastating. Yes. And it turned out that he was sort of on the backside of that virus. And just yesterday, he was released and sent back to the facility. And so he's so much better.
Look at that.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So I'm traveling up to Washington on Monday just to sit outside of his window, just to see him and put my hand on the window to say, Dad, we've been praying for you. I love you. And, he taught me some lessons, maybe unintentional to him. But, I've got to thank God that even out of the midst of some of his turmoil, come triumph.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you can look at something that's wrong and it act right.
That's right.
And so, I love my dad. I love him. In spite that he wasn't necessarily there. But you know what? He did not totally forsake us. He did not. And so I'm thankful for him, even though COVID is sort of seeing him physically. I'm still able to FaceTime with him every now and again. And now on Monday, I'm just going to go get a lawn chair, sit outside his window, and we just going to have a conversation.
I
Oh,
love it.
wow.
I love it. And I know you
Wow.
always talk about your dad. And, you know, this is a whole nother conversation about how these patients in these facilities are getting COVID. I mean, I'm so frustrated with that. I have relatives that are getting sick, and
Mhm.
it's making me sick. Like no
Right.
one, we're not allowed to go visit. You know, I have my great aunt.
Yeah.
She's contracted COVID twice.
Wow.
Nobody has seen her since March the 9th. How does that happen? You know, so that's a
Wow.
whole nother show, as you hear them say. That's a whole nother show. But I'm just saying, you know, she's
Yeah.
like 90
Yeah.
years old, you know, but
Yeah.
God is good.
Yeah.
So only by the grace of God, you know, she's still here,
Absolutely.
but twice? How does that
Yeah.
happen? You know, so that,
Right.
you know,
Right.
I thank God that your dad, you know, is still
Thank you.
here, still here.
Thank
So
you. Yeah.
one of the things you talked about was, you know, just changing that narrative. So we want you to
Yeah.
dive a little bit deeper about and debunk this negative narrative about Black fathers, you know. And as a pastor, you have, you know, this progressive church with some really great men and some really great
Mhm.
fathers. And if we
Yeah.
listen to what we read, you know, we would think that every Black child is fatherless and that, you know, we have a lot of deadbeat dads, and that's just not the case. We've got two great fathers
Right.
on this show right now. You know,
Absolutely.
we
Right.
know a lot of great fathers. So talk to us about, you know, what can we do or what should we do? Is there mentorship programs, or just, you know, how can we re-speak this narrative out?
I honestly think, Pam, and TT, one of the things that we need to do is, first of all, we've got to stop tearing down Black men.
Mm,
Every Black man is not a dog. He's not out to see how many women he can get. Because when you start speaking those things, our children are listening to that. They become sponges. And now all of a sudden, they think that's what you think of them. When I say you, I'm not talking about, that's really society is looking at them. But I think our Black men also have to change that narrative by dispelling what folks think. I tell you, you pay to what somebody else wants you to do, but you got to remember you're a king. You're not a pauper. Okay, you got a brain. You got the activity of your limbs. And so our kids will emulate what they see. They see you as a hard worker, they're going to be a hard worker. But if they see you sort of lackadaisical, you don't care, you don't show up for PTA meetings, you know, I'll tell my sons, listen, I'm going to tell you I love you, whether you want to hear it or not, because I think it's important for you to understand as a young man, you are loved by an older man, and it's your responsibility to pass it down as well. I used to always tell I never spoke evil or negative about those boys' father, their boys' mother in front of them. I don't care how mad I got with her, that's still their mother.
that's right.
Okay. And so I can't tear her down without tearing me down. And so
Right.
we change this Black narrative by the way we speak, by the way we act, and by the way we carry ourselves. And I think with men and even with single moms who have young boys, don't be afraid to let some of these guys just, you know, well, you got to be kind of careful about some, but you can't be shunning men away because you got hurt by one. Now all of a sudden you don't want anybody else to have anything to do with your child or your son. Let them spend some time in the men's group at our church. You know, I tell our men's ministry now, don't shut these young boys out. They need to see what men do. They need to know
Absolutely.
how they need to act as they mature. You know, they're going to be young, they're going to make mistakes, but it's okay. All of
That's
us
right.
make mistakes, but we recover from the mistakes we make. Okay. And so I think when I think about how we can change this narrative, I think it all starts with our conversations to one another and not at one another.
That's good.
That's a good one. Yes,
That's
indeed.
real good.
Yes. We're going to bring Rodney back on as we end this. First, thank you guys so
Oh, wow.
much. This has been a great show. You represented the men well. And I
Thank
really
you.
want to thank all of the guys who who just answered the call and quickly sent us videos. Before you guys go, we have a question that we ask all of our guests, because this is the art of balancing it all. What do you think, as fathers who have to balance work, family, friends, and relationships, do you all think that it's possible to balance it all? And we'll start off with you, Pastor Mark.
Well, I'll be perfectly honest with you. Rodney, once again, I enjoyed you, brother. I really did. Man. Listen, I can't wait to get to TT try to connect with you when I get an opportunity. But to answer your question, TT, and also Pam, it is absolutely possible. It is absolutely possible to balance all of these things. What you have to be is intentional about making sure that you spend time with your family. Here's what I tell my church all the time. You are a sad Christian if all you know how to do is come to church, praise God, read the Bible, speak in tongues, but you don't ever have time for your family. Here's what I need you to know historically. God created the family before he created the church.
Wow.
Did you hear what I said?
I heard
He
it.
created Adam, he created Eve, he created their families. It wasn't until the day of Pentecost that the church was born. That's the New Testament. Okay, so anything you see in the Bible, in the Old Testament, is centered around family first.
And
The Ten
lineage,
Commandments. That's right. The 10 Commandments, 6 of the 10 Commandments is about how man treats man or how man treats his family. And the other 4 are about how man treats God. When the imbalance is because if you can learn how to treat people with dignity, with respect and honor, then you'll know how to treat God. And so there is definitely a balancing act. You know, and I tell folk all the time at church, I'm going to spend time with my family. I'm going to go on vacation. Because one thing is for sure, if I die, y'all gonna cry for a couple of days and y'all gonna get somebody else.
That's right.
That's right.
I get one shot at this thing called life here.
Yeah.
And while I'm here, I'm gonna balance it. My job gives me a living, not my life.
Yes, that's a good one.
That's
Rodney,
Yes.
so you have to balance, and you're in the gym from when the sun comes up and it's down by the time you come out. And now you have our teenage son, woo, and everything else that you balance. Do you think it's possible to balance it all?
Yes, it is possible to balance it all. I mean, even when the kids was young, like my first 2 kids, like Pastor Mark said, I don't think I would have made it if it wasn't for family and friends and stuff. I mean, it was many times I struggled. I wasn't making much money at 23, 24 years of age. And as you know, TT, even when me and you was together later on in life, my aunt was still coming over doing our laundry every weekend.
Yes.
Yeah, Aunt Barbara. Yes. She used to come. I mean, she had her own family and she used to come over, wash me and my kids' clothes for me on the weekends and stuff like that. So, and don't be scared to ask for help. I mean, I had a buddy of mine who helped me a couple of times, Greg. I mean, one day I actually teared up one day when he had already loaned me some money one time, and he saw me on the front porch and he came up to me, said, "What's wrong?" And I said, I was short on something. And he said, "Well, I'll give it to you." And I said, "Well, you loaned me some money last week, man." I said, "I didn't want to hit you up again." And he went to the ATM machine, came back and gave it to me. And I asked him why. And he said, "Hey, you've been my friend." He said, "You've been my friend all my life." He said, "What's mine is yours." And, and I sat there and teared up on the porch because that one act he did. So, yeah, I mean, your family's going to always be there. Yeah. You have a few good friends that will always be there for you. And don't be scared to lean on them. Yeah. And I try to help my family and friends out the same way.
Yes, you do. Absolutely. And shout out to Greg and Bo and all of the family.
Yeah,
they are some great guys. Yes, and they have a great dad too. They definitely have a great dad as well.
Yes.
Yep. So Pam?
Wow, this has just been so good.
It has been. My goodness. My goodness.
Oh my God. I tell you what, I done got so caught up. I'm not even ready to go. But thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Rodney. Thank you, everybody, for
You're
joining.
welcome.
This has been so powerful. It's been so inspiring as we navigate through fatherhood. Black fathers matter. That's for
Yes.
sure. Black fathers
Absolutely.
matter. So happy Father's Day to all
Thank
the
you.
dads. We love and appreciate you. Special shout out to my amazing dad. You know, it's going to air later, but today was your birthday, Daddy. So happy birthday to the quiet storm in my life. Happy Daddy, happy Father's Day. His name is JC. That's what we call him. So happy Father's Day, JC.
Amen.
Back to you, TT.
Yes, happy Father's Day to all of the dads that are holding it down. We see you, we honor you. And as we close the show, I'd like to share one final video from my dad. This time last year, I was literally walking him out of the hospital after we found out he had a 99.9% blockage in his one of his main vessels in his brain. But God, he had three small veins that were going from the left side to the right side that most people don't have. So when I went to my dad, who has problems speaking, and Rodney knows, he was a very talkative man. I said, Dad, I want to see what your thoughts are on fatherhood, Black fatherhood. Milton Blue. He did not hesitate to tell me exactly what it meant for him. So we're going to sign off with my dad telling you just what Black fatherhood means to him. And we will see you
2 weeks.
It's the most important thing that I've ever done. I tell Dantes and Smoke all the time. They have experienced fatherhood, and it's the most important thing that you can do in life. Is being a father, and I could only be a Black father, and it's different being a Black father. It's different being a Black father because white fathers don't have to worry about their kids every day. But being a Black father, when you are successful at raising your kids, that gives you a elevated sense of pride. An elevated sense of pride, because you've navigated all of those pitfalls in order to raise your kids. Now, I had a hand in raising several kids. There were stories of failure. I failed some of those kids. I failed some of those kids. But the successes compounded. Every time you're successful in raising a kid, there's nothing that could make you happy. I count my daughter as a huge success. Both of my daughters as huge successes. And they've been a source of pride for me.